Everybody likes to have more money in their pockets, so in this video, I'm going to show you my top 3 ways on saving money while homebrewing. Hey fellow hop killers, my name is Dylan with the Hop Killer Brewery, where we give you the brews, reviews, and how-tos, and in this video, I'm going to share with you my top 3 ways on saving money while homebrewing. Not only are these 3 different ways going to show you how to save money while homebrewing, they're also going to improve the quality of your beer. These tips scale with how frequently and how big a batch size you brew, so the more you brew, the more you're going to save. If you happen to get any value out of this video at all, make sure to click that thumbs up below and let's get into it. Tip number 1, harvesting and reusing your yeast. Here's an example on how much you could potentially save when harvesting and reusing your yeast. A 5-gallon batch on average costs $10 to $15 to ferment that beer. Now let's say we use that yeast 5 times in total. So you instantly drop total yeast costs per batch from $10 to $15 down to $3 if it was $15 to start with and you used it 5 times. That's a pretty substantial savings in my eyes when you consider how much it would cost if you were to not do that. 15 times 5, that's $75 instead of 15 bucks. That's $60. Not only is it going to save you money, when you harvest and reuse the same yeast, you're going to get a better performing fermentation. And what I mean by that, usually you're going to be pitching adequate amount of cells when you reharvest and reuse, and it's going to speed up that process because they're already ready to go. When you buy it from the yeast supply or the homebrew store, the yeast suppliers, they could be a month to 2 months to 3 months old. And if you're not using any vitality or propagation starters, you're going to have a bigger lag time than you would if when you say reuse your own yeast. So that's going to cut down on fermentation time. Now, this is not a professional brewery where time is money, but who wouldn't want their beer faster with the same, if not better, results?
Just beer, calm down.
The only caveat with this is you do have to be as sanitary as possible. More reuses you have, the more times you have chances to or introduce bacteria and wild yeast, which could potentially spoil a batch of beer, but we're trying to eliminate that, so stick to 5 and you're going to be okay. Tip number 2, buying your grain in bulk. Compare the prices of buying grain by the pound. If you go on More Beer, you can see that a pound of grain, 2-row for example, is about $1.60 a pound. If you were to buy a sack of grain, which is usually a 50 or 55 pound sack or bag of grain, you get it at a discounted price, and the same exact grain at the $1.60 per pound pricing, if you buy it in the per pound, drops down in half to 80 cents per pound. That is huge. If you're doing 10-pound batches, you're looking at a savings of $8 per batch. That's huge. Add that up over a course of a year and you're saving some serious money. Now, I know most of you guys are saying, but
Dylan, I don't have a mill to mill my own grain.
Well, let's do some simple math. If you can afford to buy a mill up front, say a good quality mill that's going to last you tens of thousands of pounds to run through that mill. So let's say a Monster Mill M2, a 2-roll miller, that's roughly 200 bucks. The savings of the example we made before, where it's an 80-cent discount, it's half the price. Roughly speaking, within 250 pounds that you milled your own would have then covered the cost of that mill that you just purchased. So everything onward would be savings in your pocket, plus you get a new mill to have at your house, which is a great tool because not only do you get to buy grain at bulk pricing to save you a ton of money, you get to control the crush that you're milling it at. And if you tend to brew bigger beers, say double IPAs, barley wines, imperial stouts, or what have you, or your batch size is bigger, say 10, 15 or so gallons, you're gonna save money faster. How could this make your beer better? Like I said earlier, you get to choose the gap you want to mill your grain at, but not only that, when you buy a sack of grain, you get to understand the flavor and quality of that malt that you're going to be using in consecutive batches. And where that comes into play, if you are on a 5-gallon batch scale and that sack's going to last you 4 to 5 batches, you know what to expect. You know the quality that you're going to be using in your batch every time. And it gives you the freedom to try out other craft maltsters maybe in your area that don't offer malt by the pound, which is a really cool thing to be able to try out. And just knowing what you're gonna get is huge. My third and last tip when it comes to saving money is buying your hops in bulk. Let's compare Citra. I'm using Yakima Valley hops, for example. That's where I buy a majority of my hops. 2-ounce size you're spending about $1.63 per ounce. Now, if you were to buy a whole pound of Citra, you're dropping it from $1.63 to $1.43. 20 cents isn't much, but if you're doing a lot of IPAs or hazy IPAs, you're using a boatload of hops. So the more hops you use in your batches, the more money you're going to be saving. When you buy your hops in bulk, it's a great idea to vacuum seal the hops once you open the bag. If you don't have a vacuum sealer or know how to do it, I have a video I'll link down below. It's a 3-minute video, very simple, very easy to follow, and it's not expensive at all. And you can use it for other things around the house too. It's not just for brewing. Now let's add this all up together and get some real world numbers side by side so you can see how much money you truly can save while using these 3 tips. Okay, let's look at some savings here. I've put together 2 different batches, a blonde ale and a hazy double IPA, to compare the savings you would receive from both something that uses less grain and less hops to something that uses a lot of grain and a lot of hops. So let's check out the blonde ale without savings. I've already populated the cost based on the examples I gave you earlier, and for this we're using Citra just because it's the example I gave in the tips, and we're using Flagship by Imperial Yeast because they're awesome, and we're using all 2-row. This is not a blonde ale recipe, which it could be, but just for example purposes, here we go. So we're looking at a total of $29.34 with no savings. That's direct pack of yeast, no bulk hop pricing, and no bulk grain pricing. Now let's go back into the one with savings. As you can see, we basically cut the grain costs in half. We saved roughly 30 cents on our hops, which isn't that much, and we saved about $8 on our yeast, roughly speaking. That's gonna literally cut our batch price down less than half on a 5-gallon blonde ale recipe. That's a lot of money, pretty substantial. Let's make sure we're doing this right and I didn't mess anything up. 15 blah blah blah. No, I did not. You are talking less than half. That's huge. So this is just for a very basic recipe. Okay, let's check out this beer. So this is the per pound pricing and the 2-ounce option when it comes to buying hops. We got some heavy hitters in here: Citra, Galaxy, Mosaic. Mosaic's middle of the road, Citra a little higher in the middle of the road, and Galaxy is more expensive than most. Now we're gonna need more yeast. Actually, I did factor that in here. $21 worth of packets if you were to buy what is my favorite, London Ale 3. Now, we're talking a total cost of $78 if you buy everything at the per pound pricing, per ounce pricing, and no yeast starter, just pure packets, enough packets to what you need to ferment properly. $78 for a 5-gallon batch. Now, that still beats the hell out of going down to your local liquor store and buying a $20 4-pack or even $16 4-packs. You're still saving a lot of money from homebrewing, but let's do better. So let's go to the one with savings. So we're in here with the bulk pricing on the 2-row and not on the wheat and oats, because you're not going to be buying that in bulk. So you're getting the same pricing on your specialty malts, just on the bulk of the base malt. So then you're getting a discounted price with Citra, Mosaic, and Galaxy, and you're also getting a huge discounted price on the yeast. We're using the same pricing from the blonde, and you're cutting down your total batch cost by almost $32. $32. You can buy enough ingredients to brew almost 2 of these batches, almost, if you use my 3 tips when it comes to saving money while homebrewing. If you have any other tips that you use when it comes to homebrewing and saving money, please put them down in the comments below so we can all try and produce better beer and save the most money we can while not sacrificing quality. Let me know how much money you think you'll be saving if you start utilizing these 3 tips. Now in this video, if I have given you the simple math to justify buying a mill, and you can convince your significant other that it's a great purchase and you're able to buy a mill, comment down below. I think that'd be awesome to see if this video helped you get your own grain mill for home brewing. I hope this all helped you guys, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.